Well, thanks for coming. You know, earlier this week, the Department of Justice released their audit. What was it, Inspector General? Inspector General of the Department of Justice released their audit, and basically the audit was perfect except for one minor finding, of which Mr. Balamenti will talk about. Just a little history is, you know, when you win these convention bids, what goes along with it is some money to help in regards to the security side of putting on a convention. In this case, it was $49 million, and they have very tight guidelines and stipulations as to how you can spend that money, and then they have a very intense audit once the event is over with. And it's my understanding, Mr. Balamenti will speak to it, is that this audit is, if not the best, one of the best audits that they've had post a national convention. So I will turn it over. I think Mr. Balamenti, or is it the Council President? Yes, Council President, and then we'll go to Mr. Balamenti to talk about the audit itself.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for being here. My name is Kevin Kelly. I'm the President of Cleveland City Council. And yesterday, the Department of Justice told us what we already knew, and that is that Cleveland ran a nearly flawless political convention. And this was no small undertaking, and it didn't just happen. It happened because the city, working with the host committee, working with our Department of Public Safety, working with many public safety communities outside of Cleveland, spent the better part of 18 months meticulously planning every detail. And I think that the results of that work showed in how we did the convention was pulled off, and the fantastic job that everybody involved did to make this happen. And I think that if you look back at what the convention brought us, Mr. Balamenti is going to be talking about more of the benefits, but I can tell you from a neighborhood perspective, in the warmer months, every single day I see police on bikes. I went on a bike patrol with the 2nd District. It's stuff that's tangible stuff that matters to our residents, and the RNC made the right decision in choosing Cleveland, and I think in the way that we executed this, through the mayor's leadership, through the leadership of public safety, through Valerie McCall, and everybody who is involved in this, our chairman of public safety, Matt Zone, Cleveland delivered a near flawless convention. I'm very proud to have been a part of it, so thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank all the City and Cleveland employees that helped with this convention. It was an amazing job by a lot of people that brought it together. So the City of Cleveland employees deserve a lot of thanks. The audit was spectacular from my point of view. It was a minor comment. All the vehicles that the city bought were put in the inventory system. We just forgot to put the words that this was purchased by RNC federal grant money. So as soon as we were notified of that, we updated the database and the issue was resolved. But the whole grant, the convention came together with an amazing group of public safety and people that drove this 18 months to get it done. Everything that we did, the due diligence we did, was built around the outcome of the audit. We had authority to spend $49.5 million. We came in at $41.6. It was just an amazing job by a lot of people. We had 78 agencies that helped us throughout the country. All of them had contracts that we had to execute. From 1 April of 2016, when we initially got the award letter, we had 3 months to execute all the contracts, purchase all the equipment, and bring all the equipment here by 30 June under federal requirements. They were very meticulous of how we were supposed to purchase. Everything that we did was approved through the DOJ staff in Washington. Every item, from a Band-Aid to a hazmat truck, everything had to be approved in advance. The folks did just an amazing job. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Eckert.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ed Eckhart, Jr. I'm an Assistant Director for the Department of Public Safety. I'm very proud to say that my role in this event was a very small role compared to the work that everybody put in. The collaboration between our federal partners, our state partners, our local partners, every department and division within the city of Cleveland really pulled together. Frank talked a little bit about the very short timeline that we had to go ahead and purchase the commodities and the services. But I can tell you that this is something that the city of Cleveland, under the mayor's leadership, has been planning for many, many years. We started to put things in place when we've had other large events, going back to the children's games, more importantly, when we bid on other conventions. So this wasn't something that we did on a dime. This is something that's been kind of building up. A couple things that I just want to expound a little bit on that Frank talked about is, with these federal awards, you receive special considerations that you're required to adhere to as part of the grant. We had 54 special considerations related to this particular grant. Everything from simple procedural considerations to very complex ones that required us to draft policies, implement those policies, train our personnel on those policies prior to even being able to receive the equipment. Compounding that, as you can kind of set up the timeline, we were in the process of working with the DOJ and the monitor team related to the consent decree. So a lot of the policies and procedures that we were putting in place for law enforcement also kind of impacted or had a connection to what we were doing on the DOJ side. So there was a ton of collaboration that had to take place in order for us to be able to pull this off. Other things that the special considerations mandated is that we documented all of the training that we were involved in. As you can imagine, we had to train every public safety person that was assigned to the convention, not just on one area of expertise, several. In many situations, we sent people out through FEMA and other governmental organizations to get this training done, and again, they were a great partner for us. Equipment delivery and deadlines. We had very short window to not only identify what type of equipment we needed, but then go through the purchasing process. Some of this equipment, because they were controlled items as deemed by the federal government, required special circumstances for us to be able to purchase these items. Once we identified our ability to purchase it, then we needed a vendor that was able to meet our timeline for delivery. And all of this took significant coordination among everybody involved. And again, every division and department in the city was involved in that process. People talked a lot about legacy items or a legacy from this level of convention. Outside of the equipment that public safety divisions are going to speak about, from my perspective, one of the biggest legacies that we carried away from this convention was the ability for everybody within city government to be able to work together for a common goal and break down a lot of the bureaucracies and a lot of the, to use the mayor's words, institutionalization of longstanding processes in city government. We were able to streamline and become so much more efficient and effective as a result of this convention. And those practices remain in place today. So that's something that has made our government more efficient and more responsive to the community. Lastly, just two items that we purchased through the grant that cover all of our divisions within public safety. One, our Operative IQ inventory control system. We now have an inventory control system for all of the Department of Public Safety that's allowing us to track all of our equipment, all of our resources, knowing where they are at any particular time. It now tracks things like when certain equipment may expire, when it needs maintenance, all of those kind of things. And that software is in use today in every one of our divisions. Additionally, and this impacts our community as a whole, we purchased a video wall for our Office of Emergency Management. If you've ever been up in our EOC, you know that one of our walls is just covered with television sets that tie into all of the different camera systems we have throughout the community. That is a result of the RNC. And just these two items will continue to provide value to the community, continue to make our community safe, and it will continue to help us be as efficient and effective as we can. One person I just want to personally thank, who is not here with us, was former Deputy Chief Ed Tomba. As you all know, Deputy Chief Tomba was the lead for law enforcement for the Republican National Convention. Ed did a fantastic job, served the city for many years, and he has since gone on to another position, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank him. At this time, I would just like to ask each one of the representatives from our divisions within the Department of Public Safety to come up and give you more specific information on some of the equipment that was purchased through the RNC. And the first person I'd like to come up is Commander Johnny Johnson.
All right, thank you, Director. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Commander Johnny Johnson of the Bureau of Community Policing, and I'm here on behalf of Chief Williams, who couldn't be here. Before I talk about some of the equipment that we purchased, I wanted to talk about the most important resource that we had there, which is the human resource. We were able to bring in over 2,800 officers from 78 different jurisdictions, and the logistical the logistics of bringing that many officers in from that many jurisdictions is massive. But one of the things that I want to underscore is it couldn't have happened in the way it happened had it not been for not only the folks in fire, police, but everyone here in City Hall, our citizens in the city, and also our universities where we house them. Because not only do we have to bring them in, we have to give them a place to stay and make sure that they're fed and taken care of. So our local universities stepped up significantly and tremendously. Cleveland State, Case Western in particular, who housed almost 1,900 of our officers, and also Notre Dame College. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the things that you do see. We already mentioned the bicycles. The bicycles by far was one of the most significant purchases that we had for the safety and security. They were phenomenal. And as far as the legacy of the bicycles go, it's only been, that has only been outmatched by the community engagement tool that it's been here in the city of Cleveland since the convention. Those guys have done a phenomenal job, and so you know, this isn't something that they're assigned to do every day. This is what oftentimes these are what the officers volunteer to do. But it was, the success of this convention came from all of us in the city of Cleveland, all branches and all divisions working together to get it done. Finally, there are other equipment items that I wanted to talk about. Is we purchased some vehicles, we've purchased some motorcycles, we purchased a lot of things like traffic cones and things like that to make sure that the convention goes well. And I want to also mention our traffic commissioner, because one of the successes as far as securing the event has a lot to do with the traffic flow in and out of the downtown area. And he was able to step up and put together a plan that was just absolutely phenomenal. All of the items that were left over from the convention within the Division of Police is in use today. Every single one of them. In fact, one of the items that's near and dear to me, we have because of the convention, which is the ice cream truck. Yeah, it was repurposed from a van to an ice cream truck, and that's been phenomenal. In closing, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that everyone, it was all hands on deck. There were even officers who weren't assigned to the convention itself, but who stayed and worked in the neighborhoods, who bought in and did a phenomenal job to make sure that not only the convention and the secure area was safe, but the neighborhoods as well. And so next, I'm going to bring up Chief of Fire, Angelo Cavillo. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Fire Chief Angelo Cavillo, Cleveland Division of Fire. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today. From the Honorable Mayor Frank G. Jackson to the Safety Director, everybody involved, finance, public works, everybody working together as a team, because that's what we do in the city of Cleveland. I'm so proud to represent that this was a very outstanding RNC convention. But just to give you a little guidance as far as what the Division of Fire acquired in this RNC. The grant provided staffing and equipment ensuring the Cleveland Division of Fire was ready to respond during the RNC. The Cleveland Division of Fire enhanced our staffing. Cleveland Fire deployed 4 additional engine companies, 2 ladder companies, and 2 battalion chiefs for suppression operations during the RNC, and that was in the hard zone and soft zone during this convention. Cleveland Fire deployed a number of cut teams, field force extrication teams, if needed, to respond to incidents involving protesters. The Cleveland Fire hazmat specialists participated in joint hazardous assessment teams to make sure that they were out there assessing the situation within the city of Cleveland, along with the Cleveland Police and local, state, and federal agencies. This RNC, we also staffed multiple command centers. Additional equipment was provided to our hazardous materials unit. The hazmat received a new vehicle assigned to the unit, so that means that hazmat unit will respond 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year for at least 20 years. So we thank you for that. It's a valuable tool that we can use to mitigate situations with hazardous materials. Large inventory of hazmat equipment, including protective suits for the hazmat team, level A, level B, level C, depending on the situation. Decontamination equipment, tents, pools, monitors, chemical, biological, radiation, nuclear, explosive testing equipment that our hazmat unit needs as far as weapons of mass destruction. We are currently using those now within my division. Additional safety equipment was purchased and remain in service, including ballistic vest, carried on all units and protecting our members today. Self-contained breathing apparatus is utilized in training new firefighters, are going to be deployed on the frontline units as we upgrade. Portable manifolds for breathing air, which is another component of our self-contained breathing apparatus. Flashlights, rehab equipment. We're big proponents now of rehab. You get a working fire, it's hot, it's cold, we got to provide rehab. We acquired some equipment for cooling chairs, cots, and coolers for our division now. As far as vehicles, multiple pickups, SUVs assigned to various divisions in my division. For example, Fire Preventive Maintenance Office, Public Education, Fire Training Academy, the Hazmat Weapons of Mass Destruction, my command staff vehicles, FIU, and the storeroom. So we've acquired these vehicles to run the division, which is a big lift for us. Utility task vehicles, the UTVs. We use those on special events and trainings. For example, any public relations detail, we're going to have our members go out with those UTVs, comb the neighborhoods, and get out the smoke alarms information as far as the contact number. We'll talk to the citizens in regards to escape plans, getting into the community, getting really involved, and utilizing these UTVs. I'd be remiss also to also include the suburban fire chiefs. They were a big proponent as far as in the ready position if we needed them in case this RNC needed additional manpower as far as the fire division. And they were there, and we thank them for all they do. Thank you very much. At this time now, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Carlton, Cleveland EMS.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Carlton, Commissioner for the Division of EMS. The Division of EMS during the RNC was responsible for 24-hour emergency medical service in the convention area. It included first aid stations as well as the convention center complex, the media headquarters, and medical support for our law enforcement officers. The Division of EMS, EMTs, and paramedics also had to staff the big responsibility that we felt was our primary goal was taking care of the neighborhoods as this was going on. So the EMTs and paramedics all worked around the clock during the convention period. The Division of EMS had assistance through our community health partners, Metro Health Medical Center, Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, as well as St. Vincent Charity Hospital to accomplish our goals. Through the grant, the Division of EMS received cardiac monitors, cots, patient care equipment, patient care reporting computers, AEDs, and of course, the well-loved UT vehicles, the mini ambulances. The division currently utilizes all the medical equipment that we received and patient care reporting computers on a daily basis to take care of the community. The Division of EMS also works over 150 special events throughout the year, and the little mini ambulances are used to cover all of those events. I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Okay. Well, as you can see by listening to each of the individuals, it was a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, and as was mentioned, a lot of coordination needed for it to be successful. But it was. It was a successful event in terms of providing the environment for the convention to occur and to occur in a way that was peaceful. It was successful for Cleveland in a way that people view Cleveland as a result of this event, and it was successful in terms of our managing of the dollars that was given to us in order to put on the event. And as was also mentioned, things that were left over, we're utilizing them very well, and they're helping us. So if you have any questions, we'll gladly answer your questions.
Mr. Mayor, about how much of the stuff that was left over, like how much would that have cost if the convention wasn't here?
Oh, Frank, you have an idea?
Sure. The amount of equipment, supplies and small equipment was $5.1 million that we purchased, and all that equipment is being utilized in the neighborhoods. The capital equipments, the trucks, the hazmats, that was $5.2 million. So approximately $12.5 million is out in the neighborhoods now, courtesy of this convention.
Anybody else?
How many bicycles?
300 bicycles were purchased.
And those became a regular part of patrol operations now?
Yes.
Anybody else?
Did you say it was 12.5 million that the city benefited from the equipment still in use?
For equipment, yes.
And that's out of the 49.
49 million, yes.
If I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of the 49 million went to pay for the personnel, pay for them being here, but also covered their room and board, all that.
I can go down.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Sure. Give them.
Okay, how we spent, we had authority for 49 million, we spent 41.6. The difference was we anticipated more overtime than we needed. But for outside agencies, we spent $12.7 million. That's 78 agencies throughout the country and the state of Ohio. We had to procure insurance just in case anything happened. That was another $9.2 million. Capital equipment, those are all the vehicles that we were talking about. That's $5.2 million. The supplies, the small equipment, $5.1 million. We had to reimburse, the general fund was reimbursed for all the services of police, fire, EMS, jail personnel of $4.6 million. The city of Cleveland, by putting on the event, the residual items, Public Works, Health Department, we requested $2.5 million, and the federal government gave us $2.5 million. That was just for putting on the event. $1.3 million was for food to feed all the officers and firefighters and EMS personnel that were on. $500,000 was to procure rental of ambulances and certain fire trucks. We rented about $200,000 in equipment. Outside jail facilities, just in case we had overflow from our facilities, was another $200,000, and about $100,000 of training for our personnel.
Could you say and spell your first and last name, speaking your title?
One more time, sir?
Say and spell your first and last
Sure.
name.
Frank Badalamenti, Badalamenti.
Your title.
I'm the fiscal manager of the grant.
Anything else?
When the city got into this, was this sort of plumb at the end something that was thought much of, or is this just?
Well, we knew that in all other previous conventions, whether Democrat or Republican, that the federal government would give a grant to help in the security aspect for the event. And that we also knew that there would be equipment that we would have to use for the convention that we could keep. So we knew all of that, but that's no different than other conventions.
Once you end up with a lasting legacy as well as the.
Right, as was mentioned, right. Not just in terms of the reputation, the economic benefit, the exposure, positive exposure we got, the equipment, those kind of things. And now people, as you know, back then, I had to go to Washington, D.C. to have a conversation with the Department of Justice because they did not want us to manage the money. And they wanted us to give, I think, what, $2.5 or how much? $2.5 million to another agency to do the fiscal management of it, which was untenable for us. We just refused to do it. So I had to go down to D.C. to talk to the Department of Justice and convince them that not only in a practical sense should we be the manager of it, but we had the ability to do that, and because this is what we do. And it's proven to be so that they did not have a problem with us managing the money, getting the money out for the proper purpose, and to use that money to put on a successful convention.
And I heard mentioned earlier this is the best audit in more than a decade.
I went back to the Department of Justice OIG webpage, and everybody else had questioned cost, where you have to pay back the federal government, or major issues. We didn't have any major issues. We had a minor comment that was fixed within an hour. So very successful.
Can I just add to that too? I should have said this in my beginning remarks. This audit outcome was not surprising to us at all. We, from day one, our ultimate goal was to have 0 audit findings. We looked around and saw what happened in other cities, quite frankly, and it wasn't going to happen here in Cleveland. We had a commitment, both to ourselves and to the mayor and the leadership of this community, that we would do this and do it well. And this wasn't a surprise to us.
Now, in terms of efficiency, however, I will mention this, that City Council played a great role in it. They gave us a blanket ordinance that allowed for us to not have to come back on every one of these items. So when we purchased, no, we don't. And that was, they told us the one and only time that they would ever do that. And it was just for this particular event. Why? Because they recognize, along with us, that we need to do things in a hurry. Like I said, by the time we got the money, we had to enter into contract, we had to do bidding, and all that was within 90 days. And there was no way that we could go through a normal procurement process and a legislative process and to be able to be successful. And so I want to just mention that the City Council did give us a blanket ordinance for this one-time event to give us the ability to, and all they wanted was for us to communicate back and to give them the documentation as to what we were doing, what we were purchasing, how we were moving ahead.
Mayor, can you talk about, since the city saved $12 million stocking up on things, how that was doled out to the city? Like to what services can you talk?
Well, in any time, if we didn't have to spend the money to purchase something, that's money we saved. So we just didn't have to spend the money. And we could either not spend the money so we wouldn't have a larger debt service for that year, or we could spend that amount of money on other items that we needed, particularly in the capital side, around police vehicles, ambulances. How many ambulances did we purchase?
7 of those mini ambulances.
7, that's the mini ambulances. But if we would have had to buy that, maybe I wouldn't have been able to increase the the number of ambulances on the day from 18 to 25 that we have now. The same thing with police. I don't know how many, you got, how many motorcycles did you get? How many motorcycles did you get? 5? Well, see, we didn't have this, so but we did buy some police patrol cars for the police. We have some IT that we bought for police, all these kind of things that not having to spend money on these items helped us to spend money on other items. It really helped.
But is there something that you can tell the residents that say, you know, because we saved the money, we were able to, you know, plow streets better, get more salt, fix potholes?
This is mainly safety.
But, I mean, but the city saved money.
It's all capital. When you're dealing with capital, it's different than operation. Operation, you cannot use capital money to pay for operations, but you can buy the snow plow. You can buy the truck that you would put the salt on. You can't do those things. So yes, it freed the money up for us to use that money in other areas that resulted in better services, yes, but not in the salaries or benefits. Anybody else? Well, thank you, I appreciate it, thank you.